first question I hear us asking is this. In a materialistic world, where can I find meaning? In a materialistic world, where can I find meaning? There's a futurist, his name is Richard Watson. He's written a book called The Future Files, and in that book he outlines 5 big global trends, and one of those global trends, he says right now, is a renewed search for personal meaning. That's what he's noticing. As a trend worldwide, a renewed search. Individuals are on a renewed search for personal meaning. And it doesn't take too much reflection to recognise that he might just be right. You look at some of the sectors of our society at the moment. Let's take travel, for example, the tourism sector. One of the fastest growing niche markets in tourism right now is what they call voluntourism. Anybody heard of voluntourism? Voluntourism has been described as like a gap year for adults, where you take your annual leave, and instead of going and bobbing in the lapping blue waters of Lord Howe Island's iridescent blue lagoon, you take that annual leave and you head over to Guatemala and build an orphanage. Or you head to Uganda and you teach English, or something like that. And it's becoming quite a trend. Australians are looking to do something more meaningful with their holidays. Isn't that interesting? One journalist said, voluntourism was what you do when sipping margaritas by the poolside has lost its lustre. Another area in society that we could have a look at is just the growing drive to find meaning in the workplace. We have seen a whole movement develop about finding meaning in your workplace. We've seen the invention of the workplace chaplain in recent years. There was never such a thing as a workplace chaplain, just like a school chaplain goes into a workplace, helps you work out some issues that maybe might be holding you back from doing your full potential at work, might help you through the grieving process. All sorts of services that a workplace chaplain is starting to offer to companies. We've seen some companies start running seminars on meditation, seminars on journaling for their employees. Those are very spiritual ideas, very spiritual practices. Some authors are coming out now and saying that the company of tomorrow will not just be able to create a product and sell it, or put together a service and offer it, but will have to somehow change the world if it's going to be able to attract and retain staff. I got talking to one of our big merchant banks' corporate responsibility managers at one stage. And her job was to travel the world looking for worthy projects to give lots and lots of money to. Not a bad gig, and you would like their business card, I know. You like 2? You'll pass it on? No, 1 for you, 1 for you. Her whole job was doing that, but what I found fascinating was the reason why they do such a project. Oh yes, there's some sort of kudos that the company gets if they seem to be doing some great things for an orphanage in Guatemala, but it's really to do with staff retention. She said it goes a little bit like this. Employees are spending so much time at the office these days, they want to feel that at least their company is doing something meaningful for the world, even if they don't feel they personally are. Then there's the rise of the quarter-life crisis. You've heard of the midlife crisis? None of you have had one. The quarter-life crisis. That wasn't a joke. 20 and 30-somethings. 20 and 30, they're now talking about 20 and 30-somethings having the effect of a midlife crisis. And it goes like this. Raised in affluent times, get really good educations, develop big dreams for wealth and affluence and success, head out on the job, and very soon discover that it's just not worth it. And so they hit this crisis point. Very interesting phenomenon. Rebecca Huntley, who's written a book on Generation Y, puts it like this. She says, Generation Y, today's 20-somethings, are rudderless. Not rudless, folks. Rudd may no longer be in power, but he's always with us. Rudderless. And what happened was the baby boomer generation turned their back on religion. This is her as a secular researcher talking. The baby boomer generation set their back towards religion, and so their children, Generation Y, have grown up without any firm sense of ethical base, any firm sense as to how you actually have a purposeful life. And so very soon they head out in life, discover that, well, that success and that affluence just doesn't cut it, and so they start to feel, her words, lost. I asked Richard Watson, the futurist, and I said, well, what might be a catalyst for this renewed search for personal meaning as being a global trend at this point in time, and he didn't know. Let me give it a crack. Here's what I think has happened. I think a materialistic dream captured our imaginations, and it set us on a pilgrimage to the kingdom of things. And we acquired and we bought, and we did our pilgrimage up the hill, up to the mountain of the kingdom of things, and we got to the golden castle at the top, and we found it glitzy and sexy and bright and shiny on the outside, but cold and empty and lonely within. We certainly didn't try the materialistic dream in half measures, though. All sorts of very interesting figures have been done by Clive Hamilton. He actually says that since the 1950s, the average Australian home has doubled in size at the same time as the average Australian family has decreased by a third. So we've got bigger houses, twice the bedrooms, 3 times the bathrooms, 4 times the garages, a TV in every crevice, and fewer people using them. We've even had the invention of the me ring. Anybody heard of what a me ring is? A me ring is an engagement ring that a girl gives to herself as a gift of love. It's worn on the right hand. As the advertisement for one of them said, your left hand says we, your right hand says me. Those who are in Sydney will know Burwood Shopping Centre very well. I was walking through Burwood Shopping Centre just a few months ago, and I saw an advertisement for gym equipment, of all things. And the sign read, happiness, just $99. That's it, isn't it? That's it. We've tried to buy happiness. We've tried to buy significance, and it hasn't worked. It's failed. We're still empty. We're still asking the question, in a materialistic world, where can I find meaning? And friends, there's a variety of people, a variety of products and services that have got answers for that. A very popular personal development course that's going around our capital cities right now ends after 4 or 5 days of people taking time off work, heading along to this personal development seminar. The great crescendo happens when the speaker gets up at a podium like this at the very end of the course and says, friends, life is meaningless. So go and do what you want. Make it meaningful somehow. It's all up to you. Now, what a burden to carry. And no wonder so many of us feel weary. But friends, do you hear a whisper? Do you hear a voice of one who says, come to me, all you who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest?